In this game, you need to pay attention, and that makes it one of the most exciting games coming to PS5 this year. This is Hell Is Us, a new third-person adventure game from Rogue Factor, the developer behind games like Necromunda, Underhive Wars, and More Time City of the Damned. In Hell Is Us, you play as Remy, a man venturing back to his home country in search of his parents and answers. But his memory is incredibly hazy for reasons unknown, and when he arrives in the war-ravaged country of Hadia, he finds that the lands have become infested by supernatural beings. It's a great jumping off point for the game's secret weapon, Unguided Exploration. You see, Hell Is Us will not have a map or a traditional quest log system. If you're told to go and fetch something or figure something out, you have to investigate your surroundings because the game isn't going to hand locations to you on a silver platter. Natural discovery and exploration in video game worlds is something that differs from title to title. We've seen games go too handholdy, littering maps with icons and essentially making you follow a line to your next objective. It quickly divulges into busywork, mistaking quantity of content for quality, and despite games quite often having riveting settings, you aren't really taking it in. Now, we've seen series like Assassin's Creed try to move away from this approach by gradually streamlining the quest log and map systems, and to be honest, those types of games can still be really fun. Even I like to just sort of zone out and do some quests. But when a game really asks you to lock in and pay attention, that's when things get special. Maybe that's regarding the combat for a game like Doom Eternal. Maybe it's the puzzles in something like Portal 2. But I do think there's something really remarkable and unique about a game that asks you to be curious in your explorations. Take Elden Ring for example. Yes, there is a map, but outside of the Sites of Grace, there are no quest markers. That's a game that revels in the art of discovery, where you look to the horizon, see something cool and think, yeah, that's cool, I want to explore that. Letting players loose and hoping that their curiosity and passion for discovery carry them forward is another level of engagement. And there are plenty of other games that have this approach too, from Red Dead Redemption 2 to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Finding that discovery hook is what really makes an explorable world click. But Hell Is Us is approaching things a little bit differently with something it's calling player plattering. This approach to questing and exploration wants players to follow their own instincts, discovering clues organically and charting their own course through the adventure. It almost sounds like you should be playing this game with a pen and paper by your side. In a recent investigative gameplay trailer, we saw Remy arrive in the town of Jova, looking for his father, who he remembers as the blacksmith. Asking around, you hear that the blacksmith left with the peacekeepers over a hill with the ancient monuments. Now you look off to the distance and said monuments are visible, and with that we have a lead. Now while it's not too deep to just look off to the horizon and see the thing that was just described to us, it's still another way of engaging with your environment. In so many games, your first port of call after gaining new information will be to check the map to see where you should be heading next. But now, you have to actively look ahead, see the space, and visualize the direction you're heading. It's an immediate way to ground your players in your setting, which is emphasized all the more when you start traversing the land and dynamically discovering more cool stuff. Now, the developer doesn't want to make things difficult for the sake of immersion. It's actually aiming to prove that you do not need quest markers and maps to traverse an environment and progress through a story. So for example, when looking for the town of Jova, you are told to follow the wind chimes. It's a very diegetic, meaning in-world way for the game to lead you in the right direction. It should be all intuitive enough that it makes sense as you go along. However, it is still a layered process. The base experience should be intuitive and readable so that you aren't struggling. But if you do want to go deeper, solve those puzzles, uncover more secret storylines, that will require keen observation. There are plenty of things in Hell Is Us that can go completely unnoticed. Puzzles, characters, new secrets to uncover, all entirely missable. But if you pay attention to the tales that the people are telling and the details strewn across the environment, the gameplay experience will become all the deeper. I find this to be such a cool approach, especially when deeper and more difficult content in a lot of games just translates to tougher enemies and more powerful weapons. I'm sure there will be elements like that in Hell Is Us, especially with its melee combat, but that deeper and more difficult content isn't about challenging your commitment to the game, it's about challenging your intellect. For example, in the latter part of the gameplay trailer, Remy comes across a woman running low on milk supplies for a starving baby. In the video, it doesn't say how this issue is solved, but actually tasks you with looking back on what we've already seen in the trailer to theorise on a solution from there. And casting a look back through this walkthrough, we see a cow, or just a glass of milk sitting on a table. It's super cool to see that the game is already encouraging you to take in the minuscule background details. All of this is in the hope to tap into that old school joy of exploring and discovery. It wants you to use your instincts and gut feeling to feel your way across its world. Now that isn't going to be for everyone, and I suspect it'll take some time to sync yourself up with the game's line of thinking. But Rogue Factor has designed its investigations to offer different paths leading to various solutions. So there isn't one right way to do things, allowing players to very naturally find their way to the conclusion without forcing them down the one route. What I love more than anything though is how all of this is tied to the environment and its design. A visual aesthetic is one of the first things that we will judge in a game, whether it's post-apocalyptic, far-flung fantasy, or spectacular sci-fi. More often than not, it's just visual noise to draw your gaze. Now me personally, I'm a very visual person, so a lot of the time, that works for me, but I'm also a sucker for an environment that is telling the story as much as the people that inhabit it. Hell Is Us looks fantastic, which is likely down to creative director and art director Jonathan Jack Bellatet, who's responsible for the look of games like Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. We have plenty of highly detailed vistas on display, whether those are war-torn towns, ancient structures, or pretty fields in the countryside. It becomes all the more impressive when those environments aren't just extensions of the universe, even offering little insights to the lore, but they actually are the story. If this goddamn glass of milk is a key component to a quest where you save a baby, what is off limits? It changes your very relationship with the space that you are exploring. Any other game, if I walked by this cow, I'm not thinking anything of it, but now it has potential meaning, and that can apply to this, and this, and this. The best kinds of worlds are the ones that reel you in, and while for a lot of games that is a hopeful additive to the base experience, in Hell Is Us, it's the entire point. It doesn't just want you to think, oh, these ancient monuments look really cool. It wants you to ask, why are they there? It's an incredibly exciting premise, and one I really hope is fully realised when Hell Is Us launches on PS5 September 4th, 2025. Thank you everyone for checking out the video. Let me know what you think of Hell Is Us, and please do leave some recommendations down below for other games that have this sort of hands-off philosophy. While you're down there though, remember to leave a like, that really does help me out, and even better, subscribe to the channel for more PlayStation video content just like this. Anyway, until next time, I've been Aaron, and this has been Push Square.